What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Project Super Heavy. As always, this video is brought to you by NutriBio Supplements, Crystals Bikinis, BioLongevity Labs, and Rapid RX USA. So today I'm going to do a little bit of a different video. It's been a couple weeks since I did one of the off-season updates. So I wanted to bring you guys something a little different. Gonna do, I guess, a full day of eating, almost like a day in the life minus the training. So full day of eating. It felt super corny, but I did film a couple little clips of like how I start my morning between the vacuums and the walk. Typically I go walk outside, but it was a little bit chillier than I like for my Florida skin at this point. So just hit the treadmill or step pad, whatever you want to call it. And what I'm going to do is, because I've done these types of videos before and I kind of just feel like um, it's almost just like wasted time as I'm eating for the audience. So I fielded questions that I'm also going to answer as I eat each meal. So with that said, I have meal one. It's 170 grams of cream of rice, 60 grams whey isolate. I'm using NutriBio s'mores. I have 100 grams of banana and 15 grams of peanut butter for some added fats. We were finding from the continuous glucose monitor that this meal does not really sustain my blood sugar. And a lot of times it was crashing down within like 60 minutes of eating it. So that's why we put some of the added fats in there to try to hold it. It still comes down pretty quick soon thereafter, but this is the meal, and I typically try to have that second meal about 75 to 90 minutes after. It sets me up to be ahead of schedule, and then I'm also taking advantage of that low blood sugar by putting food back in over top of it. So this is the meal. I don't know if you guys can get a good look at this, but I pretty much turned it into like a little bit of a cake. Use a little bit of baking powder. I put all the ingredients in that I told you about in the bowl. 350 grams of water, mix it all up, run it through the microwave twice. So I woke up, I started wearing a new CGM. I got sent the Dexcom G7, I think it's called. Yep, Dexcom G7. Apparently these are the ones that diabetics actually get prescribed or is viewed as like the highest accuracy device. So I woke up at 70 and I did my vacuums. I hydrated, I did my walk, and then this is where I'm at now. And I can feel it. I'm a little shaky and hungry. So I'm going to get to it. And then I also have some questions that I'm going to answer for you guys. So I'm going to dive into this here. Honestly, this is probably this on my post-workout meal, probably the meals that I look forward to the most. Wow, that's killer. All right. Couple of questions so that this isn't just totally self-serving and there's some value provided to you guys. One of the questions was, how do you keep good insulin sensitivity during the off season? I think all of this starts step one of having a really good off season in terms of gains, insulin sensitivity, all of that. Step one is getting peeled and starting your off season from a place that you're so ripped that as an enhanced male, you could add 50 pounds of scale weight and still not be fat or insulin resistant. Besides that, I am a huge advocate of every single day before you're putting food in your stomach, doing some type of fasted activity. I'm not even doing machine cardio necessarily. My cardio is more so like a duration. So 5 times a week, I'm supposed to do my morning walk for at least 25 minutes. A lot of times I end up doing 30 just because of the loop that I go out and walk on. And then it's supposed to be like my 2 leg days. I do no fasted cardio. But even so, on those days, I still go out for a 15-minute walk at least. And I think from wearing the continuous glucose monitor, I mean, you see it often that, getting hydrated and then going for a walk before meal one, it often brings my blood sugar down anywhere from 15 to 30 points. So it's like you're just so much better set up for food. And then I think that carries over the rest of the day. It's killer. I don't know if you guys can even see this, but it is literally like a cake. And I'm not one of these like protein snack people. If this was not so easy to make, I wouldn't do it, but it's literally just all the ingredients I'm going to eat plus a little bit of baking powder. So this is almost like a chocolate cake, right? And then you get a bite that has like a banana chunk or some peanut butter in it, and it's just like, holy shit. So other ideas for insulin sensitivity in the off season. I think limiting your added fats as an enhanced male bodybuilder is wise. Um, because it doesn't slow any of the processes down. So then, like, you're mostly just eating, like, for example, a protein carb meal, and you'll get an initial raise in blood sugar, but then it pretty quickly comes back down. So it sets you up to be eating every 90 minutes to 2 hours. Um, Besides the fasted activity, I think walks after meals is a huge one. I see that in the objective data from wearing the continuous glucose monitor, how rapidly it doesn't matter if my blood sugar is shooting up and the trend is really pushing high. If I do a 10-minute walk and then hydrate a little bit, it puts an immediate halt to the blood sugar rising, and it almost like does a complete 180 and just starts shooting back down. So that's a big one. And then there are, of course, exogenous tools that you can use. I think in order, the best off-season tools for insulin sensitivity are number one, besides any of the lifestyle stuff, if we're talking about exogenous tools, number one is MOTS-c. Number two is retatrutide if it agrees with you. And then, three, we obviously have like an exogenous insulin. Um, but I think you'll probably find for most people, if you're able to use one of the two or both, you probably won't reach a point that you need insulin, whether you choose to use it as like something to further drive, like if you choose to use it as like a PED more so than as like a prophylactic, there's still a place for it when you're really sensitive, but you probably won't find that you need it. Like when people try to counteract high blood sugar prophylactically with like Lantus or something like this, right? Okay, so this question, if your high day nutrition doesn't excessively drive up blood sugar, averaging in the 80s, postprandial 115 to 120, and back down in an hour, is there a reason to implement Lantus or Humalog? Yes, there are reasons to implement the exogenous insulin in terms of it further enhancing what you're already doing, but it doesn't sound like you need insulin. You're not in a spot that to help you manage your blood sugar or alleviate the stress on your pancreas, you need insulin. That's not this scenario. But I definitely think there are benefits outside of just blood sugar for using exogenous insulin. Um, I will definitely say I have gone back and forth on this. Right now, I have found that um, like Humalog around the workout is probably something that has the best marginal benefit in terms of using it like a PED, um, especially if you're using a GLP-1 to manage your blood sugar, like off-season wise. The Humalog will help with the glycogen uptake and storage in the right areas. And then with it being rapid, you don't need to be quite as militant about not having added fats the entire day. It would just be wise to limit them or completely remove them around that window that the Humalog is active. Man, this meal is killer. I think such a huge part of off-season bodybuilding is enjoying your food. Like this is something I go to bed at night and look forward to like getting my shit done in the morning so that I can have this first meal. But that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't want to go too long on each individual video because with 6 meals, this will end up being longer than what people want to watch. So, a couple of questions. First meal down. It is, um, what is today? Today's Monday, January 12th of 2026. All right, everybody, back again. Meal two here. It is about 90 minutes since my first meal. Basics. All reliable. Chicken, rice. I have some dried pineapples, just as a means of adding more carbs. So this is 320 grams of cooked sushi rice, 200 grams of chicken breast. That's cooked weight. And then 30 grams of pineapple, which is 25 grams of carbohydrates. Let's see. Blood sugar is 86, so I'm in a good spot there. And then a couple of questions as I get through this. Initially, when my coach added dried fruits to this meal, I wasn't really sure what to use. Um, I know a lot of people use dates. I went and bought some dates. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about them yet. um, but then I just thought, like, man, I love dried pineapple. I use dried pineapple for guys when they peak. And so just something enjoyable. I could see myself doing like dried mangoes, dried bananas. I like actual raisins. That's kind of the vibe that I get from dates, although they're like big and they kind of almost look like gorilla fingers. But no, so long story short, I thought this was going to be a little bit weird, but it's actually really good. So a couple of questions. What is my current favorite training day in my split and why? Sorry if it's boring, but you guys will see this off season I'm really making a point to chew my food as as much as that just sounds like basic common sense. I've really tried to not be neurotic about it, but I'm really counting how many chews per mouthful of food. And I also am going to the point that it almost liquefies what you have in your mouth just to make it so much easier to digest. And so that ends up being like 30 or 40 chews, a mouthful of food. But anyway, what is your current favorite training day in your split and why? I love my split in general. Have looked forward to training every day. Um, so I do biceps, chest, and delts on Monday. I do triceps, back, and rear delts on Tuesday. I do biceps and legs Wednesday. I'm off Thursday. Friday, I do arms and delts. Saturday, I have like a gauntlet leg day. And then Sunday, I rest. I honestly look forward to training every single day. Each day, the pumps are crazy. I'm enjoying the training. I would say right now, I've convinced myself that arms and delts as a standalone day are my favorite day. I try to get myself most excited and looking forward to that day. And I tell myself, best day of the week, favorite workout of the week, because it is such a priority. It's mostly an arm day, and that's a big part of where my physique needs to improve. And I've heard a lot of guys, a lot of bodybuilders say, man, that I hate training arms, or I hate having just an arm day. It's so boring. And then I think a lot of times their physique reflects that because you're not excited about it. So I have kind of convinced myself that that is my favorite day. This is a thoughtful question. So I'm going to read it and then I'm going to take a couple bites of food and think on it. Um, what is something you learned in 2025 that is going to help you moving into 2026? Those are a couple lessons learned and things that I've taken out of 2025. From a coaching perspective, I think this was the year more than ever that I've done an intentional job of building the relationships that I have with people more so than just being like a paid contractor or it totally being just transactional. I've just tried to do my best to build people up, especially when it's appropriate. I mean, I'm never going to be somebody's like delusional cheerleader as a coach. I pride myself on being honest and oftentimes quite blunt. But I have also learned this year, especially, the value in having your coach display belief in you. And so a lot of times what I've done this year is I've tried to get guys to believe in themselves more. And a common thing that I'm saying to guys is, we'll see because I'm not going to put a ceiling on it or I'm not going to put a limit on it. Like if someone says, how much muscle do you think I can gain this off season? What do you think I'm going to weigh on stage next time? How much bigger do you think I can get? Do you think I can do X, Y, and Z? I've grown accustomed just saying, we'll see, because I just have seen enough times now where people way outdo whatever their original beliefs were. So I'm starting to see in real life that the limit doesn't really exist. There are really no ceilings when people are so all in and willing to have their actions reflect how they feel about something. I think that's super, super powerful. So I'm going to continue to try and harness that and build my guys up. Um, I think I probably could do a better job myself of feeling that way of about my own progress and my own physique. I just have a very difficult time, like most of us do, in terms of seeing my own positives or believing in myself. There's just a lot of times I don't see what maybe other people see. I just always, well, I think when you're skinny as a start, you kind of always feel skinny. You never feel big. I remember 2019, I was at Fdoe in Germany with Animal Pack, and one of the athletes that we had with us was Evan Santapani. He was enormous at the time, probably his biggest ever. I think he was like, I remember him stepping on a scale, but it was in kg. I'm pretty sure he was like 138 or 142 or something like that. So that's like well over 300 pounds. And he was just outright enormous. And I remember just kind of playfully saying to him, like, what does that feel like? Like, how does it feel to be that big? And he was like, I never feel big. You'll never feel big. He said, other than a few times as a professional where I was 2 or 3 weeks post show and, your fullness has come back and your personality has come back to life and training is killer again, but you're still really, really lean from being on top of your diet after the show. He was like, in those moments, 2 or 3 weeks after a show, you feel like hyper muscular walking around and you can kind of feel that you look way different than other people. And he said, but other than that, you never feel big. So for how big he is and how big he was when he said that to me, it has kind of just stuck with me that I may never feel big, but I think it could go a long way in believing in myself a little bit more. And so hopefully those are the things that I'll carry into 2026. And so I'm gonna get this meal down. This is kind of my pre-workout meal. I have like a whole concoction of a protocol that I have to put together. I have a pre-workout drink, pre-workout carb shake, intra-workout carb shake, immediate post-workout meal, insulin, Increlex, the whole 9 yards that I got to put together. So I'm gonna eat this meal. I'm gonna go do that, and then I will see you guys later. All right, guys, what's up? What's up? I'm back. This is I would call this my post meal 4. You guys saw me in the car with my immediate post workout meal. That was about 52 minutes ago. Um, I am using both pre and post workout Humalog pre and post workout RGF. Um, so in under an hour after that big post workout meal, let's see if I can. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm at 83 right now in terms of my blood sugar, which is a great spot to be. Body's going to be ready to accept food. And so I have the same thing here as my meal 2. So it's 320 grams of sushi rice, 200 grams of chicken, 30 grams of dried pineapple. I'm a sauce guy, especially for the off season. So I'm using a little bit of a combination of G. Hughes honey barbecue. And then, so I like that on my chicken itself. I'll like put that in the bowl with the chicken when it's by itself. And then it almost makes it like it's barbecue chicken. And then separately, I put like a little bit more of like a loose sauce over top of the rice. And so in this instance, that was Nerdy Sanchez from the from Flavor Gang. So a couple of questions I got asked. One, how much of your off season do you control yourself versus how much do you let your coach dictate? So, um, diet, cardio, cycle design, things like insulin, orals, in this rare instance, the Increlex. I hand all of that over to Justin completely. And I just let him tell me what he wants me to do, how he wants me to do it. I don't touch any of that on my own. Now, in terms of the amount of gear, I do that on my own. Um, the amount of GH, I do that on my own. And that is just, based off of my own feedback of living in this body. I'm getting labs done every 4 weeks. Um, and just wanting to experiment with different setups, different ratios. Like right now, it's very high test. And then as a secondary compound, my nandrolone is high. And then as a third compound, my EQ is the lowest. So I always like to use my own experience and what I'm doing with myself as like a test run for what I may do with clients. Once I do it myself, I at least feel like I have that in my bag of tricks or on my resume so that if I go to a client and say, "Hey, I've done this and this is how it worked for me. Are you open to trying this?" You guys have probably heard me say this on the videos, and all my clients know this for a fact. I never am the one recommending something that I have never used before. Now, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, what about using this?" and it's something I've never used, I'm always going to keep an open mind about it, but I'm going to make it very clear that you're kind of doing this without the assistance of my experience being able to help you. I cannot help you because, and not that I should say that I cannot help you, but I can't give you the same level of advice that I would with something that I've done personally. So, um, but yeah, he still is my coach and makes all the calls in terms of the direction that we're going, when it's time to cruise, when it's time to push, when it's time to move up food, all that. I just hand it off to him and do exactly as he says. So this guy writes in and says, "I know you're a fan of pushing up, for example, say 20 to 24 weeks before pulling back and going up again. Hypothetically speaking, if you had exactly 1 year to put on as much size as possible on someone, would you still use this approach?" So I can give you an example because I competed this past year, basically 1 year apart exactly. It was even a little bit less. It was 51 weeks apart. And I put on 15 pounds of actual stage tissue, like in stage conditioning. So, which is a ton. It's a ton. And especially for someone that's already been doing this for a long time, already been using gear for a long time. Not to pat myself on the back, but you don't always hear about big leaps in progress like that from someone that's been doing it for a long time. So the way that I would do it then, if I had like 52 weeks, like this guy wants to compete 52 weeks from now and be way bigger, it would be 10 weeks of a immediate post show rebound. And I'm going to need that guy to buy in and understand this is the most important time of the year. So from an adherence perspective, I need you to be bought the fuck in, like it's contest prep. 10 weeks post show. 6 weeks of a cruise, and this is hypothetical. Let's say that labs and health and everything are good. I still think there's a value in that down period. So 10 weeks of a rebound, 6 weeks of a cruise, another 10 to 12 weeks of an off season, another 6 week cruise as like a pre-prep phase, and then anywhere from 16 to 20 weeks, depending on how quickly that person previously has gotten ready for shows. Have they already gotten peeled? Have they already gotten peeled under my supervision? Those are all considerations that I think about in terms of scheduling out someone's contest prep and what the length is. So that's why I said the length of the actual solidified off season and then the length of the prep are a little bit up in the air depending on that individual. But that's how I would do it. At this point, I'm a huge advocate for guys going through the process and competing and getting stage ripped every 12 to 18 months and then rebounding and doing it all over again. That's the quickest way to get big. And it's also the quickest way to make substantial leaps in progress. I don't think that the perma bulk, 3 year off season, after a certain point, if you don't reset it in terms of body fat and sensitivity, you end up just putting on a lot of body fat and then solidifying that body fat so that it becomes more difficult to diet the next time that you want to get lean. So that's how I would do it. I'm going to get this meal down and I will check back in with you guys in a little bit. All right, YouTube, we are back. Meal five going down. Um, Honestly, one of my favorite meals of the day. I know I said that about breakfast and post workout, but I love this meal five. I also love my meal six. The chicken and rice meals are kind of old, reliable, but enjoyable nonetheless. So this is killer meal. I got 450 grams of liquid egg whites. That's measured as liquid, and then I cooked them. And then I have three sourdough English muffins. They're the Thomas brand. In total, this is 50 grams of protein, like 80 carb, and then maybe 1 or 2 grams of like trace fat from the bread. But um, that's going down now. Let me see if I got a question worth answering for you guys. Okay, this guy says, "What's your opinion on free meals in the off season? Something like once a week." I think they're fine. I think they're great. Um, I think being an adult and understanding, especially if you're going to do this as a standard once a week, that should really remove the feeling of scarcity towards food. So it should feel like food is in abundance. And because of that, at that one meal, you don't need to eat like you're going to the electric chair. It should just be, one single meal treated like an adult, and then you move on. Um, I think about it checking off a couple boxes. It should be, when possible, it should be treated as a social outing or gathering, as a date night with your partner, as something social you do with your friends, your family, your parents, colleagues, stuff like that. That will allow you to feel more connected and more like a regular person. And then there is definitely a psychological component to just getting a break. Again, going and having a date night with your lady, having someone else cook for you, not having to worry about doing the dishes, any of this stuff, right? So, massive benefits to it, and totally fine when someone is responsible about it and eats with their goals in mind. However, on the flip side, I have absolutely seen with clients and myself, the person that does 6 meals a day. So there's 42 meals, 42 meals in a week. They have 41 perfectly weighed out meals on plan. They have one off plan meal, and it is a free for all, and that will ruin your off season. Flat out, point blank. It will ruin your off season. You won't make any progress. You will get excessively fat, and it will make your next contest prep even more difficult to reveal the fact that you have gained no muscle. So it will ruin your off season 100%. So, I think that they are totally fine. I put them in basically everyone's solidified off-season plan. Um, in the past couple of years, I've gotten guys to buy in and treat their immediate post-show rebound similar to contest prep, in that there's really no off-plan or untracked eating. But in the off season, like it should be very easy to manage and make part of your life. So I'm personally just in a phase right now. I'm not doing them myself as like a solidified standard thing, but um, that's just because I'm really just trying to get the most that I possibly can out of this phase. I'm using, a lot of PEDs. Um, I'm throwing every resource at the idea of making progress. I'm doing weekly massage. I'm doing weekly new fit training, which is expensive. Like I talked about the gear, I'm doing monthly blood work. I'm beating myself up with the training. I want to get the most that I possibly can out of all these efforts. So, um, my off season started December 1st. I ate a meal, just a very modest dinner meal with Kelsey's family on Christmas Eve. Um, for with my family, Christmas night, I had a big dinner. I had steak, pasta. I had plenty of Christmas cookies to go around, and then I was just right back on plan. So then, there's nothing planned or no reason to go off plan for a while, so I won't. And then on Valentine's Day, Kelsey and I will go out. So for me, this is just a phase right now that's really important to me. So I'm treating it as such, but I think off plan meals can absolutely, and in most cases, should be part of someone's off season. It's just a matter of how you approach it. So, um, with that said, I'm going to get to this meal and I will see you guys for my final meal. All right, YouTube. Excuse me. Meal six feels like I got a little bit of a hole going on. Not the best, but nonetheless. So I got asked this question. I'm going to show you guys what meal six is, and that will basically wrap up the full day of eating portion. There will be a continuation where I kind of break everything down that's been going on the past couple weeks, explain the ins and outs of it the way that I normally do in one of these types of videos. So, um, yeah. So meal six, it's basically like 470 grams raw of 96.4 ground beef. Justin just put peanut butter in my final meal, 30 grams of peanut butter. Um, with the reason being that there was a couple times in the week leading up to that check-in that I was like woken up because of low blood sugar, where it was like really low and I'm like sweaty and kind of cold. Um, so, odd though, because I train in the morning, typically after meal two. I'm typically at or done with the gym by like noon. And this was happening like a full 12 hours later, where the only exogenous insulin use was Humalog rapid insulin right around the workout. So, um, yeah, he put some fats in the final meal, I guess, with the idea that I would kind of stabilize the blood sugar. It's been better since. There are times that during the day away from some of these fats, I notice I'm going low, almost like it is an unnatural, it's not endogenous. And it's away from the Humalog. So it has me wondering then, is it that potent of an effect from the IGF? So that's just a little bit of the thinking that's gone into it. Burgers. Yeah, I use some a couple slices of fat-free cheese. These are like potato rolls. Um, that's how I'll do this as a final meal. Knock this down. It is like 7:30 now. I'll do this down and hopefully be in bed by 9 or 9:30. Now, for this young man's question, I met this guy. I'm not going to say who it is, but I met this guy in person, and he's very cool. He's got a hypothetical GH question, budget of 3,000 IUs. How would you allocate it for cutting phase followed by a rebound off season? 5 IUs for the cut, then 12 IUs for bulk, 8 IUs straight across. Is it worth running more in a surplus or during a cut? Is it worth having any in during a cut and saving it all for the bulk? For more context, I'm 220, 5'10, lifting 8 years, enhanced for 3. Biggest off-season cycle is 1.3 grams and 4 IUs of GH, and he wants to be open super heavyweight. So he didn't say his age, but I've met this young man, and I believe he's like 22, 21, 22, something like that. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't really think that there's any wrong answer. It's just why are we doing what we're doing? So, um, for me, honestly, I have a little tism when it comes to like math and even numbers. So knowing that it's like pretty much 8 IUs a day flat. Um, I would probably stick with that. There is an argument to be made to doing, I think more so not using it at all during this cut and just setting yourself up to have an enormous rebound and ensuing off season. But also the longer that you're on it, the better it works. And so it just depends. Like to me, bodybuilding really, just in my experience, it really happens for people at 6 IUs a day. Otherwise, like you're getting some effects, but I'm talking like if we're using this, like this guy clear cut is like I want to be a competitive super heavyweight bodybuilder. Um, so to me, I think just get it in and get it in at 8. That eight's a handsome bodybuilding dose. And so if all the other factors are lined up, and even like you don't need to go beyond or much beyond where you've been with gear as young as you are, and with this as a totally new variable that really enhances everything. It's not a bad time to sneak out like progress on similar doses to what you're used to. So depends on how you want to play it, but no, I like the 8 IU daily approach. That's like, I have said before as much as you can afford, and then I fucked up my hands, so then it was as much as you can handle. From my own personal experience, there's dramatic changes that can happen, like starting around 6 to 8, and then up to like 12. Beyond 12 consistently, I just don't see that there's that second leap like it is the first time that you're on a real deal amount. So, yeah, that's how I would do it. Like if I had to redo it myself from your age, calling the shots and timelines on my own, I would, with my knowledge now, I would tell a younger version of me to just put it in at AIUs and stick to that. And then when you get the opportunity to, whether, you know, but whatever means you're working, what have you, when you have the opportunity to re-up and get that next year, do that. And you could just leave that in as a constant variable. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go eat and I'm going to go to bed. I'm not feeling great. It is what it is. stay with the video if you guys are interested in the breakdown of all the X's and O's. And until next time, I am out. All right, everybody, I'm back. A little bit of a delay. I apologize for that. Yesterday, I filmed the full day of eating. By the end of the day, I didn't start. I started to not feel so great. I've been dealing with like some type of weird cold on and off for like 2 weeks ever since I went back to New Jersey. So, um, we had like a big family Christmas party that everybody ended up sick at. So, for a couple weeks, I've had days that I was like, damn, I feel like shit, and I'm taking an extra rest day from the gym. And then other times I like, take pre-workout, take some Dayquil, go train, feel awesome the whole time that I'm there. And then, then I get home and I feel like I have a cold. So, anyway, definitely started to feel that last night and early today. Today was one of those days I was scheduled to train and I ended up just taking a rest. I've talked about it before, but every third week I'm doing a total of 4 training days instead of 5. And this happened to be that week. So having an extra rest day to play with, I wouldn't necessarily say that I missed the training because I had an extra rest day to work with. So I'll just, today was back day, so I'll do that tomorrow. So you guys saw the full day of eating. Let me know what you guys think, if that's something that's interesting to you guys. I know some people like those types of videos. For me personally, those are not something that I typically would watch, but I'm happy to do them if it's interesting to you guys. And then this is going to be more part of the video that is like typical to the rest of this series where I kind of just break down everything that's been going on. So I talked to you guys when the cycle first started, and looking back, I had with my coach Justin Compton, we had really treated my cruise period as like a diet. Pretty much every time I checked in with him during the 8 weeks, he would lower the food and he was telling me, I want to set you up to be sensitive, all this stuff. And at a certain point, I was like kind of discouraged because I'm like, man, I had gotten up to 270 in my rebound in pretty decent shape. And then he had pulled me all the way down to 248 was the final week of the cruise. And I was definitely a little discouraged, but also I just trust him. So I'm like, you know what? He's got a plan in mind, and I just need to follow it. So with that said, I realize now why he did that, because he, 248 was pretty lean. And then since we've started the cycle, every single week, he has upped the food pretty dramatically each time, almost like a post-show rebound where he's aggressive and trying to take advantage of the fate of the state that my body is in. My body has just responded like never before, truthfully. I feel in the gym with my pumps, my performance, my excitement to go to the gym, my excitement for the process. All of this is kind of what I felt like I was missing in my post-show rebound. I never really felt like I got to this point, especially in terms of the pumps. And, it's hard to say, but, looking at myself, I see myself over and over and over again, and I know what I look like with a pump. And for the past couple of weeks, I have felt like I just have started to look a little different in the gym from what I ever have before, which has been awesome. It's been some of the most fun that I've ever had in the gym, and I'm almost 15 years into doing this. So it's been really cool to see him, that he set this up almost like he was setting up a rebound by basically dieting during the cruise. And so, that's where things have at. Like, it's every time I check in, I'm tracking my blood glucose with the continuous glucose monitor. All of the feedback is good. Like blood sugars, waking and after meals are like crazy, crazy low. A lot of times I wake up and my fasted blood sugar is like 50 or 60. You know, an hour after my post-workout meal, I'm shaky and my blood sugar is 60 or 50. Um, and I'm just looking forward. I'm not food focused, but I'm looking forward to eating every time. And, all I relay all this feedback to him. I'm like, things couldn't be better. My blood pressure's good. Um, I had gotten labs done. Everything was good. I have labs again coming up. I was going to do them this week. And now I'm not sure that that's the best idea, being that I don't feel great. I don't want it to skew anything. So I may push that back a week. I'll keep you guys posted about it. Um, Let me screen share and show you guys just some different things. Show you guys how I've been setting things up. Obviously, the Increlex came in, so that's something new and exciting. Um, just so this is what it looks like. I bought 2 vials. Each of them are 40 milligrams each. It came like overnighted in a like vacuum sealed uh, box, in like insulated box with like dry ice packs. And I got like an email alert when it was shipped, and it was to my house in like less than 12 hours from the time that it was shipped, and it was still cold. And I took the lid off of it, and it almost had like a smokiness to it from like the dry ice. It was pretty wild. It almost looked like something from the Terminator. I'm not gonna lie, it made me pretty excited. I was like, damn, you never really know, especially having to put out, a good chunk of money ahead of time. And you're buying something like this, you never really know if it's gonna be legit or what. So the fact that it showed up looking like this, I sent it off to my coach, and he was like, man, I didn't even believe that you were gonna be able to get this. It's wild. Um, So I'll show you guys, like I said, pretty much like almost every time since I've checked in, every time I've checked in since I started, diet has just consistently been rolling up. I'll show you guys what I've been doing with PEDs. This is like what I had envisioned starting with. And then as early on in the process, I sent my gear off to be lab tested, and the testosterone of all things actually came back a little bit underdosed. So because of that, I ended up being on less than what I thought. And then I adjusted it so that I was, doing what I wanted to do. And then I also kind of adjusted these amounts to just be like round, even numbers. I went and got labs done on this stack right here. So 1500 test, 600 EQ, 900 DECA. And my total and free testosterone were, like off the charts. But my sensitive E2 was 12. And I'm not taking any AI. So 1500 tests, 900 Nandrolone. You would think, no AI. I thought for sure my E2 would be like normal or high end of normal. And subjectively, I felt good. My libido's been good. Mood has been good. So just guessing subjectively based on how I felt, I went into it kind of expecting my E2 to be like high 20s, maybe even in the 30s. Nope, it was 12. So getting that information back, I realized I probably had some more room to go in terms of something that aromatizes. So to me, 900 deco is already quite a bit. So I'm like, you know what? My buddy Austin Brown, he is on 2 grams a test, loving every second of it. Looks incredible. Looks, he's enormous. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let me see what's going on. Everything looks really good. Otherwise, um, so I have the room to do this. So, um, brought this up. This is just recently, so I can't even really say that I've felt any effects. All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't know where it left me off here. Um, Hopefully that full video recorded. So like I was talking about, I'm up the test recently. I haven't been able to reap any noticeable effects from that yet. I just started, so it's probably going to take a bit. I took out the orals. I was doing some Anavar and some Anadrol. Loved both. Loved the Anadrol. Didn't bother my appetite at all. I was taking it before bed. Lowered the Proviron simply because the tablets that I have now are 30 milligrams, so I'm just taking one a day. I have been able to move my GH up to 13 IUs a day. No issues with my carpal tunnel. Fingers crossed. Um, the Increlex, I'm doing 50 micrograms pre and post on training days for 100 microgram total. And I am doing 50 micrograms fasted in the morning before my first meal on rest days, just to get some in there and not have like discontinued use. And before I removed the Anadrol, I was starting to see some blood pressure elevations. And because of that, I brought the lisinopril ACE inhibitor up to 10 milligrams. Um, and I kind of did that all at once. And then because, since then my blood pressure has been like regular person awesome. So I don't know that maybe I maybe could bring that back down to 5, but we'll see. And then peptide wise, let me see if what I even have here. Yep, all this is still the same, other than the SS31. I've removed that. Wanted to just kind of run that early on and see if it kind of just set me up to be more healthy during this initial blast. I removed this as well, GHK. I spoke with Malik about this, and there's so many things that get expressed by taking this peptide, and most of them, in terms of like genomic expression, the majority of the things that it is expressing are inhibitory to IGF, which is obviously not what we want. So, and I saw enough to say I don't think that this is worth it as a bodybuilder, so I'm just out on this. But all these numbers are accurate. Otherwise, I take the SLU fasted in the morning. I don't take any pre-workout. I feel like that is a good way to feel flat in the gym. Retta, I take 1 milligram twice a week. And then the Mott's, I'm doing just 2 milligrams per day, actually. So diet-wise, this is where we started. And I don't know that I was even doing numbers for a lot of them, but it was just like every week it's going up, it's going up. We had put in this like insulin protocol where it was immediately pre-workout. I do 10 IUs of Humalog, 40 grams of liquid carbs, which is like Gatorade powder. So it's a pretty immediate. And then another 40 from a little bit of a slower carb to kind of sustain me during the training. And then that was going really well. And it was like lining up with the food totals and the amount of insulin that I was using. And then we put the Increlex in. And it does have a really, really potent insulin-like effect. So being that I'm taking them at the same time, I had to lower the Humalog because it was too much for the current amount of food. So, and then like I talked about, I had a couple instances that I was just waking up in the middle of the night, like totally hypo and sweaty. So Justin put some fats in here with my last meal. So this is where we're at: 473 protein, 842 carb, 80 grams of fat, just under 6,000 calories a day on training days. It ends up being a pretty good chunk of a difference um, because I have so much that's just geared towards the training, like this immediate pre-workout shake, intra shake, immediate post-workout meal. All that comes out on rest days. Training wise, I think I've talked about it, but this is what I'm doing. Day one, bicep, chest, delts. Day two, tricep, back, rear delts. Day three, bicep, legs. And then I rest. I do arms and delts. I do legs on Saturday, and then I rest again on Sunday. And then every third week, I take this day three as a rest day. I don't do this training session every third week. Um, so we are here. Today's Tuesday. This is the workout I would have done, and I just put this rest day here, and I'll do this tomorrow. I took some measurements just to get an idea of like how, how my efforts were going, especially for my arms. I'm doing my arm workouts with the new fit machine wrapped around me. Um, so this is where we're at. A rest day, the day before, basically my cycle started. My left arm was 19 inches exactly. Right arm was 18.6. And then 2 days ago, also on a Sunday rest day, left arm was 19.8. Right arm was 19.9. So a little less than an inch on the left arm, and then a little more than an inch on the right arm, which is pretty cool. All the same context, same amount of meals in. Um, my fiance Kelsey did it with the same band or whatever you want to call it, tape measurement. It's about as objective as it can get, and I'll show you out some pictures. I do think it's pretty noticeable in the pictures. Uh, So, so I don't know that I said the weight. So here was that 248 that I ended my cruise on. And then this is my most recent set of pictures. I'm about 6 weeks into my cycle and I'm 266 here fasted. So pretty good difference, I think, across the board. I'm usually, not very impressed with myself. Um, I obviously don't have any delusions about where I am in the big picture, but I can see that this is, quite a difference. All the while making sure that my midsection has stayed, no, no worse, let's say. But yeah, I think everything pretty much up top. Legs look like they're bigger. Pretty good. Um, so this one's always going to be important for me. Front double. I feel like you can't really hide anything. And people have said to me, "Oh, your arms are not that bad," or "It looks like you have big arms," like when I'm just walking around the gym or whatever. And that may, be somewhat true, but the real test is when you lift your arms up for a front double, are they big? And that's always been my problem, or the thing that I needed the most. So, um, couple big priorities for me, at least right now, training wise, arms, legs, and then I really want to bring up my lats from the front, and that all of those are geared towards making this look better, this pose. So, like I talked about, 248 to 266, so like 18 pounds up. And I honestly don't feel like my conditioning has slid much. Like, if you look at these pictures from behind, I almost feel like my glutes and my hamstrings are harder than they were here. I mean, that probably means that I'm a little flat here, but, um, seeing how much pop being on cycle and eating in a surplus has done for me, it's pretty cool to see that all that weight gain. Um, Man, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I'm sorry about that, guys. I hope this continues to record. Yeah, so I just showed you guys some of the pictures from behind. This is 248. This is 266. Lower back maybe is like a touch harder here. Um, but in general, I think, for almost 20 pounds, it's a really good trade. We'll take it. Front lat spread, pretty big difference here in the legs. I don't know if that's just like a posing thing or what. These are the two that I'm going to show you that I think the difference was most obvious. So side chest. And then this is what I was talking about before. People have commented that, maybe my arms aren't that bad or whatever. In poses like this is when I noticed that they're decent in that regard, or, especially here, this is the beginning of my cycle. And this is currently, I feel like that inch that the tape measure shows that I've put on my arms is pretty visible here. Legs are bigger. I think, like chest and the traps have a good look to them. But I really see like the difference in my arms and delts, how round everything looks there. So that's pretty much everything, guys. Touched on gear, touched on the Increlex, touched on diet, and that is really everything. I'm gonna do these. I wanted to do them like weekly, but then just with the podcast and everything else, I had other stuff that I was trying to get out to you guys. And then we traveled for Christmas. I ended up a little bit sick, so um, I may end up settling on doing something like this once every 2 or 3 weeks. Because I like to share something substantial more so than just giving you the same update every week. But um, yeah, that's all. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment. Um, thanks for following along. Much appreciated. And until next time, guys, I am out.